Hello and welcome to Adobe Live. Thank you so much for joining us today. If we haven't met yet, I'm Jordan Danae Ellis. I work on the Adobe Express community team, and I am here with Andy Lambert, my favorite co-host. Hi, Andy.
Hello, Jordan. How are you?
I'm great. Um, so today we do this like monthly-ish recap. Sometimes it's kind of seasonal depending on how the rest of things go. So this is a little bit of like holiday season recap. I have the wonderful pleasure of listening to Andy, who has done all of the research for all of us with basically like everything you need to know about what's happened in the world of social media over the past chunk of time. Mostly because, as Andy can probably say, it's a little bit of a full-time job keeping up with all of that. And so he does all the hard work for us, so we don't have to, which is wonderful. And thank you for doing that.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Should we do some intros and then we'll kind of set the scene a little bit and
Yeah.
and then we'll dive into it, shall we?
Yeah, so the reason that we're doing this is because we both care about social media a lot and online marketing. My background is I have run a small business for the past, I think now I have to update to 13 years, which is really crazy. And so I started an Etsy shop back in the day without a marketing budget, believe it or not. And so I basically built everything that I have off of free online and social marketing, which I think is amazing. And so now that I work on Adobe Express, a huge part of Adobe Express is like making content, online marketing, any type of digital assets you need super quickly and easily for anyone, but lots of times for people who are wearing like a billion hats and need to make things really, really fast. So all of that kind of goes together. I care a whole lot about making things easier for marketers and solopreneurs and freelancers. So that's where I'm coming from. And then Andy is bringing a little more facts to the equation here.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, so I'm Andy. If we've not yet met, for my sins, I was one of the founders of a company called Content Cal, which was a social media marketing product, and that got acquired by Adobe in 2021. So yeah, two and a bit years ago, I think.
Yeah,
Time,
wild.
yeah, it's wild,
Wild.
absolutely wild. So naturally, through the process of building a social media product, you kind of got to stay very close to what's happening in the world of social, which got us into keeping track of all of these updates. And rather than keeping them for ourselves internally and trying to make our product decisions based on these every month, we want to share them with you. So everything we've learned, everything that's happening. But I also want to caveat this because this is the important thing. I want to caveat that yes, we'll go through quite a lot of stuff that's happened over the course of December and January. So, as you mentioned, Jordan, we try and do these every month. But because it was December and I think Jordan and I had things to do, as in mostly relaxing.
I was like vacations to take for sure.
taking a bit of a detox from social media.
As I hope lots of you all did too. We did talk before the holiday break about like setting things up, scheduling them in advance so that you can give yourself a much needed break, which we all need at different times. So
100%.
No shade at all in taking a break from the internet.
Love that. Yeah, it was much needed. So, and I think the thing that I also want to say is like, don't, and Jordan, you call this out quite a lot as well. Just don't feel like you need to do everything here. We'll
Yes.
present a lot. We'll share. We'll go network by network, looking at all the different updates that they've shipped within the last 2 months. And we don't need to take action on everything. We'd be selective about the things that we might want to do, or you might just be interested to see the direction of social media and not take any action at all. Doesn't matter. As long as you can sit back, grab a beverage of your choice, and you can, at the end of the next 45 minutes, feel confident that you know exactly what's happening in the world of social. And that's our kind of commitment to you. Anything else you want to add before we dive into it?
Just that this is being recorded. So if you're watching live, hello. Thanks for being in the chat. We have Rich and Anthony, and we actually have Geek Production says I was able to unplug this Christmas, so that was good. So feel free to drop your questions if you're watching live. But if this is an overwhelming amount of information, you can always come back. There are replays available on the Adobe Live YouTube channel. So yeah, feel free to drop your questions for us now. Drop them in the comments later. Andy and I will share our socials too. So we are available for you. But yeah, don't be overwhelmed. You can pause, you can screenshot, you can come back to the recording. And I think think that's it. Yeah.
Awesome. Love it. Right. Well, let's get into the slides and let's start with this. So, actually, to your point, Jordan, about if there's anything you miss, you want to stay caught up. Jordan and I have a Substack that we put out every single month. So the next issue will be out next week. So this has all of the previous issues of our roundup that we do every single month. So you watch the replays and we call out the most important things that you need to know in the world of social. So if you want to get a digest in your inbox every single week, or every single month rather, don't do it every week. I could not publish that frequently.
No, so, absolutely not. And I barely help with this, so it would be all on you, sorry. Yeah. But the nice thing is this is totally free. So especially if you're kind of just dropping in now and maybe don't want to like stay super up to date on our schedules, which is a totally fine way to live. You can sign up for this if you want, and then you'll just get a recap every month. So especially like sometimes a lot of updates will happen on Instagram, for example. If that's your platform, you can know that Andy will have the latest on that. Or if you just want to kind of skim it and like pop into the things that are helpful for you. Yeah, it's totally free. The links are in the chat and in the description. So definitely come hang out with us if you'd like.
Amazing. So I'll let you speak to this in just a second, actually, John, because you do a wonderful job of this. And doing this kind of roundup and update every single month serves quite a specific purpose, actually, because Content Scheduler, which Jordan, you can talk to in just a second, is the product that allows you to organize and schedule content. So understanding what direction social media is going in, what platforms are performing quite well, can help you kind of inform your content choices. We're usually demoing Express, which we're not going to do today. But Jordan, do you want to do a bit of a call out on Content Scheduler in case anyone's unfamiliar?
Yeah. As I said 1 second ago, it is amazing to take a break from social media sometimes. So I think there are two really incredible things about scheduling your content. One is that it does take the, I guess, immediate pressure, especially for folks who like want to post a certain number of times a week. That ringing in the back of your head that's just like, you got to do this, it weighs heavy on you. And then I think a lot of times that makes it feel very stressful when it really doesn't have to be. So that's one, to just kind of give yourself a break. But two, there are days where I'm like really in the mood for it and days where I'm not. And so the fact that I can take the time when I actually really feel like putting this content together and my brain is in the right space and I feel inspired and creative, I can schedule out for like a week or 2 weeks or a month, and then I just know it's done. So, you can definitely check back in and reply to comments. Like, don't set it and forget it completely, because Andy and I both use social media as like a community aspect. And so being around, answering questions, replying to your DMs, that's a huge part of it. But it is really, really nice to know that like, even if you're tired one day or don't have a great idea or don't feel like scrolling through your photos to find something, it's just already going and you can prep for the next. So I think Content Scheduler is great. It is in Adobe Express. We have a billion videos on how to use it. If you've never heard of it, it's very easy. So thanks, Andy and team, for making it very easy. You literally just click on a day and add the content you want. But yeah, all of that and more is why I think it is the best.
Amazing. Well, wonderful description of it, Jordan. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And one final thing that's brand new this week that makes it even better, that is it's now entirely free for everyone, unlimited. So there is no...
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I was about to say it's completely free and I was like, no, it's not. That's great news.
Yep. So no more post limits at all for free users. So even if you don't pay for Adobe Express or don't subscribe to Creative Cloud or anything like that, you can use Adobe Express, use the Content Scheduler. So I think I might be proven otherwise here, but as far as I know, there is no other product on the market at all that allows you to schedule content.
I don't know any.
All those networks entirely for free. So talk about empowering.
I'm gonna go make a post about that right after this.
I think
stream.
so.
That's everyone should know. That's amazing.
Definitely, this is it's amazing. What an incredible thing for Adobe to have done to make this free. So we couldn't do that when we were Content Cal and we were like our own business as a standalone thing. But now we're part of Adobe. You can offer incredible value at scale, which I absolutely love. So.
That's
go ahead.
Amazing. Also in the chat, Sandrine is saying, I managed to stuff the scheduler during the holidays because that's when I have time to do it. that is a great way. Whenever you have a break and want to just fill it up for the foreseeable future, that's how I use it too.
Amazing. And hello, Sandrine. I think if I probably recognize the name, so I probably know which Sandrine it is. So thank you very much for joining, Sandrine, and for all of your help. So anyway.
And we had a question. It does include TikTok integration. So yes.
Yes, good point as well. Thanks for bringing that up. Right. Let's get into it, shall we? So there's a few numbers coming your way. Hopefully it'll be quite interesting because there is some very interesting trends guiding the direction of social media at the moment. And even when I talk about these trends and such, we'll talk about some of the kind of directional things that it's just nice for us to be aware of. Some of these things that I'll talk about, like none of us really can take an action on, but they're good for us to be aware. So we're going to talk through some data, we'll talk through some trends, we'll go network by network and look at any individual ones. Jordan, interrupt me at any point if you like.
I will. To add. Don't worry.
I don't even know why I was giving you permission. You don't need permission. Alrighty. Let's start with let's step back and look at some of the big stuff that's happening. So mobile social media use continues to grow. 2 trillion minutes or hours, spent on global social media apps. On mobile is the space that continues to grow really quickly. Year over year growth is slowing down a little bit. We don't need to worry too much about that. But mobile use of social continues to grow as more and more individuals across the world continue to be connected by social. Just as a bit of a sidebar, 66% of the world's population now use social media and log in every single month. So that's closing in on 4.5 billion people. So 2/3 of the world's population. Really, there is nothing that connects us quite like social. And let's look at some of the popularity of the products. So even if you're not necessarily marketing to teens, which most of us are probably not, one thing that's very interesting to look at when you look at trends for what platforms teens are using, it helps us understand where the kind of direction and where the next growth is coming from, because typically the social media adoption curve will go for teens to, to the kind of the generation of Jordan and I. We were just talking about MySpace before we actually started, actually ages us somewhat, to slightly older demographics. So you can see the platforms that are gaining adoption for teens are the ones that will continue to maintain relevance as well. YouTube, even though it's kind of diminished slightly year over year into 23, YouTube remains incredibly strong for teens. So even though TikTok looked like it was taking quite a bit of market share from YouTube, that hasn't actually manifested over the last year. In fact, YouTube's continued its dominance. Snapchat is something we don't talk about that much. They don't have that many updates every single month, but it continues to grow in relevance. And there's one reason Snapchat keeps on performing incredibly well. As typically social media we're an interesting pivoting point here, where we're seeing less content across every single social network. Less content is being shared to the feed and more is being shared in stories, in DMs, in private communities. So there's an interesting fragmentation happening on social, and that's allowing people to really feel more connected to smaller niche communities, which I think, Jordan, I'm interested in your take on this. I think that's a really good and healthy thing, especially for small businesses. What's your take?
Yeah, I think niche communities kind of get not like a bad rep, but like everyone thinks social media is for the numbers, and we talk about that a lot. There's so much more to get out of social than like those vanity metrics. So I personally, my entire business was built on a very small niche. So I was like, cool, I'm never going to hit millions of followers. There's just no way that there are millions of people on this planet that want the same things as me. But same thing as like Discord and those kind of community channels that we also don't talk about a whole lot because it's not really like social. It's online like forums and hangs. Those are my favorite places because that's where I like really build relationships and friendships. So it just takes thinking about it a little differently, but I think there's so much value there.
Yeah, and that thinking about it differently is a really, really good point. And the fact you called out Discord, platforms like that, those community platforms, continue to grow really well. I mean, unfortunately, there's no 22 data for Discord, but when you look at its popularity, and we've seen the same for Adobe across Firefly and Express, the popularity of Discord too. So really,
Yeah.
really interesting channel, and I think it gives us more optionality when we think about how, as a small business, can you be competitive. You're not necessarily going to outspend your competitors, not necessarily going to go viral on TikTok, and that's not, to your point, it's not always the aim. And often for me, it's really
Hmm.
never the aim to go viral. But what you can do is compete and be very strong in those smaller communities where you've got your tribe and the people you're trying to target. Does take effort, but it does mean you can kind of outmaneuver your competitors. So I do see it as a bit of a competitive advantage for small businesses.
Yeah.
Right, changing this completely. So still looking at data stuff, but top networks for consumer spend. This is interesting because it really gives us an idea as to where those creators are going. And why do we care about creators? Because obviously creators are the ones that will spend time creating the content on the network that's going to pay them the most. So typically the reason TikTok is leading these charts is because many people are using TikTok's currency. So they got their own currency. So I forget what it's called, either stars or coins. I think it's coins. Either way, TikTok coins you purchase, and then you tip creators with them. And you can also use these TikTok coins to boost your own content too, which is driving a lot of the TikTok spend. Now, the way to think about that as a business is that with the growth of creators on the platform means that we've got lots of potential like influencers or ambassadors that we could work with as a business, because that's really where the center of gravity is shifting from a social media perspective, shifting to creators, and not necessarily, well, it's never really been with brands at all. People always cared about the humans behind things. So that's my take on this one. You got any thoughts on this before we move on?
No, I know. So I don't spend a ton of time on TikTok. I know that lots of people shop on it a lot and spend a lot of their time and energy there. I'm scared because of how much time and energy I could spend there if I tried. So I believe all of this. I just don't have a ton of personal experience with it.
No, all good, all good. It just goes to show how much money they do make when you see it's above
Yeah.
like mobile apps of Disney
I mean, the
Plus.
number of friends I know who have bought things and then tell me it's because of TikTok, like I believe all of
Yeah.
this.
It's actually, I'm really pleased you brought that up because that's gonna come up in a second.
Oh, perfect.
But like there's a double-edged sword to what's happening on TikTok at the moment, is that it's declined a little bit in favor in teens. The push towards shopping, to your point, Jordan, is a really interesting one there because TikTok are pushing shopping hard. So if you're an e-commerce brand, it's definitely one
Hmm.
to look into and investigate, because they are. It seems we haven't got any evidence, but the narrative I'm detecting from this is that TikTok are really promoting anything that's promoting products. So anything that's linking back to TikTok Shop, they're really giving it a load of reach. That has, like I said, a double-edged sword, because if you look at Gen Z trust in platforms, and YouTube right at the top, YouTube is sitting quite pretty in terms of its performance with teens, but TikTok is right at the bottom, or nearly at the bottom.
Yeah,
No one really wants to be as untrustworthy as Facebook. So
I know,
yeah,
rough.
and hearing some narrative and just kind of like, I was speaking to a bunch of people around this regularly posting on TikTok, as am I, and just the feeling of like, poor, low quality products which are kind of
Yeah.
cluttering the experience. So yeah, double-edged sword. There's still opportunity there for sure, still growing. Still, if you're an e-commerce brand, it's a good place to be. But naturally, this might have some broader impact down the line, because it looks like TikTok are in a kind of pivot from giving lots of free reach to people and going, hey, everyone can go viral, etc., and get discovered, to like they're really taking on Amazon now. So now they've given away all of this reach and they've got all this attention. Now they're trying to monetize the hell out of it, basically. So it will be very interesting to see what happens. Going to talk about some other usage metrics. Sorry for the horrible looking slides. Just a screenshot from Mr. Musk's post, basically
Okay,
saying
okay.
that X is still performing very, very well, and people are spending more time on X than they were the 30 days prior. So it looks like it's still continuing to grow. So even though the media would have you believe I mean, it still is absolute chaos, to be honest. But one thing that's staying consistent is its user base. And it's interesting to see how bad a platform can get and the users will still stick around. So that just kind of shows like the core value. So we can't really ignore, I mean, you can take your own choices, but if you were doing well on previously Twitter, there's no need to quit and abandon right now because it's not going anywhere. In fact, it's still this is just a screenshot from the FT. In the US, it remains the third most visited social media site after Instagram and Facebook. It's massive. The audience isn't going anywhere. Yes, there's questions around all of it, but to be honest, if we remove some of the kind of political and other kind of brand safety stuff, users are still there. There's still growth to be had, to be honest. Talking of growth, Instagram Reels are beating TikTok for average views. So
yeah, that's wild. It's so funny having done this for, I don't know how long we've been doing this, a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
Nearly two,
I don't know.
think, yeah.
But this was not the case before. Nope. So I mean, I guess it's interesting. Like we've brought this up before, but social media is not linear. Like things change, things go up and down, they trade places. So to your point about Twitter or X and not just like abandoning ship, I think that's like important too. Yes. Just the idea of like, if there's a platform that's really working for you and it's maybe not in its like best time ever, it may come around. Because there was a time where we had the opposite conversation of like, are Instagram Reels ever gonna work? and now they are. So
now they are.
It's just kind of interesting.
Yeah, your point is such a good one, Jordan, about like just not flip-flopping your strategy based on this data. Hopefully you feel kind of empowered by this. And of course, this is one way of looking at it. There's always so many different ways of looking at data. Yes, Instagram Reels are performing well. They're pushing it hard. It's working out for them, which is great. So many of you, I think probably still more people are posting on Insta than they are on TikTok. So hopefully you'll see this as a very positive signal. But if you kind of pivoted to TikTok, another way to look at it is, yes, Reels might be getting better reach. TikTok is still winning out for levels and depth of engagement. The average people that end up interacting with the content, because TikTok are just still a bit better at serving more relevant content to people and keeping people hooked, basically. So you're very smart and not spending time on TikTok because
I know what it would do to me.
Very wise, very wise. All right. So there's some data points, but let's look at some trends, and this will kind of link to what we're talking about. So interesting stuff happening at TikTok. As I said, they're going through a bit of a kind of shedding their skin moment into the next iteration of what TikTok is. Going after YouTube because creators still make more money on YouTube than they do TikTok, and TikTok know that a great way of helping people make money is by having longer videos, because longer videos means more opportunity to share ads. And it's always social media platforms they're always in a war for creators. It's just like television networks and getting the best talent. That's all it is, really.
Exactly. Yeah.
And here, so to do this, TikTok are starting to prioritize content that's longer than a minute. So you'll see this sometimes a bit in conflict, because you'll see the posts that have like the best view rate will typically be the 15-second posts. But it's worthwhile saying that TikTok are still mindful about the longer form content too. So you can post TikToks up to, they keep on changing it. It's either 3 or 5 minutes, and they experimented with 15 minutes too. So if you want to, if you have longer form content, which I typically do, TikTok are still going to promote that quite well. So you don't have to be restricted to, just a 15-second TikTok. So it's worthwhile thinking about it for that perspective.
Yeah.
Talking of TikTok, search engine, 40% of consumers. This is Adobe research, actually. So it was nice to bring that to life. So
yeah.
Research shows 40% of consumers now use TikTok to search for things that they need or are interested in learning about. So we've known this. There's a change happening between search and social. People typically go, I'll just Google it, find and discover stuff. Increasingly, that's shifting to social, which means social's going to become even more important as part of like a brand strategy. And TikTok is really leaning into it being a search engine, and that kind of links perfectly with their e-commerce push, everything you just spoke about, Jordan. So good timing. Don't know if you read the slides, but either way,
I didn't, certainly didn't. So that worked out great.
Yeah. Called you out on that one there. Yeah. But yeah, so they're going after Amazon, so it's very, very interesting. If you're in e-commerce, I already mentioned this, TikTok is an interesting one to keep an eye on. As far as like the social networks that are pivoting the most, TikTok is that one. And I think this will probably be something as well. I think this is the last trend before we get into all the feature updates. Reddit is showing like it's coming out as a very important source of product research. I think you and I would have known this already, Jordan, but it's nice that through other research this is coming out too. And just in the days where people are trying to get like unbiased, genuine advice, and Reddit is a great place for that. I don't know if you've got any takes or thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I think the older I get, the more I've seen Reddit become popular, just in the sense that like I feel like the older I get, the more I care about finding different kinds of information, especially about products. And I'm like buying things that are a bigger deal, where, buying like more expensive things that I just like want to know more information about. And it feels like that platform does a really good job of balancing like directly from the brand and also like customer and user feedback. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Like it doesn't feel spammy in a lot of ways, or it feels like it's being held accountable, I guess, maybe in a different way. I don't know if
that tracks
what I mean to say.
Yeah, it does make sense. And I think, so if you operate in a more of a kind of business to business type of context, it works in other scenarios. But for me, from a guy typically come from like a B2B background, this is where Reddit's been super strong, and it's great. There's lots of different communities like related to the things you do. Like I spend a lot of time in the social media marketing community, for example. A great place where, it's one of those, like we spoke about before, those kind of trusted community, the fragmentation of social media, people finding their safe spaces to say, hey, I saw this, what do you think of that? Feeling like they're within their own tribe. And that, I think, it's just a perfect example of saying like, really, social media is pivoting, and how we can use it as brands is shifting. Yes, there's no shortcut to this. You can't post it once and go into every single community you want to.
Right.
You have to invest time. But it does mean that we have an opportunity to reach customers like we've never had before, which is exciting.
It's amazing. Yeah. I have a question before we go in from chat. Well, one, we have a happy belated birthday, Andy, in the chat, which is very nice.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. And we have another question. I think you've mentioned this before, but for the Adobe Express social media scheduler, when will we get to use trending audio when posting from desktop? I know that's not currently available. I can't remember if there's an answer to that or not.
I love that question. It's currently something that we're looking into with the networks directly at the moment. So I can't share too much on that. We know how much of an issue this is, and an opportunity it presents. It will also get a bit easier very soon. I wish I was about to disclose why, but I can't really. But hopefully, like,
stay tuned, follow us, we'll have news.
Yeah, we've got some news coming soon. So there will be a way of addressing that in not too distant future. So yeah, I'm going to try and close my big mouth at this point. And
follow the Adobe channels and maybe something will happen.
Yeah, exactly. Stay tuned. Cool. Any more questions?
That's it right now. I did say for folks watching live on LinkedIn, my chat is being kind of goofy, so feel free to come over to YouTube because that chat is working. So if you asked questions and I didn't answer them, I'm sorry. It's because I don't see them. But feel free to come ask again over on YouTube if you want.
YouTube, LinkedIn live streaming. Yes.
It's a wonderful place to be. It just doesn't always work for me. So
doesn't work.
Sorry, everyone.
Anyway, cool. All right. We've got a bit of. We don't usually talk about Meta. We talk about networks directly, but there's some really interesting stuff shaping up. I don't also talk much about the stuff that's coming down the track and the stuff that's new. But I thought this was so interesting to think about the future of how social media will be in a not too distant future. So I wanted to call it out.
Mhm.
So they're going all in on
I've
GenAI.
seen this. Very interesting.
Mm. So I don't know if you got any take on this. You want to share any more?
Not yet. Not yet. Let's see how it goes. What do you think about this so far?
Well, I haven't played with it directly, and I mean,
Okay.
so really, this is more about like they're setting the foundations for what the future, what kind of Gen AI social media future will
Yeah.
look like. Whether you need to generate images using Meta's models, I mean, there's plenty of them. Adobe Firefly, Midjourney, yada yada. Lots of different opportunities to create whatever we dream of. But I think some of the other stuff's particularly interesting. So interacting with, it's called Imagine. So interacting with that Gen AI capability on Meta through chat, that will be coming very soon. So it gives us a whole new dynamic of interaction, especially as we're talking about more content being shared in those private communities, private channels, in DMs, etc. Adds a whole nother lens to DM conversations. But this took me a little while to get into. I'm interested in your take. So they launched a bunch of AI personas based on popular characters. I think there's like 150 of them. So these are kind of chat bots that have been trained on these popular individuals and these celebrities that interact based on how they typically interact. So you can have conversations with them. So I had to, you know, I have to manage my cynicism sometimes with this kind of stuff because, I'm closing in on 40 now, so I'm like, it's hard to always be completely open-minded. So I have to deliberately go, okay, how might this evolve and be useful? How is that just not a gimmick? So it's quite hard to always be open-minded. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But then
Yes.
I start to think about, what does that mean for brands in the future? And then suddenly it's like I can start to see that as, a chatbot personality that has a both a brand tone so that it stays within guidelines, but also something that's inherently human. When you think about like interaction on social, when people just want the information from a brand, these kind of like personas and chatbots suddenly have a lot of utility because as we know, responding to every single comment on social media is very difficult. Do we want to have Gen AI talking to other AI bots? Probably not. But do we want to allow people to get the information that they need from a business quickly? I don't know. I can see the potential there. I don't want to take us on too much of a tangent, but I'm curious on your take
Yeah, I
with it.
mean, I talk to chatbots relatively often. Like customer service tends to be, talking to a bot
Yeah.
for a minute until they kind of sort you, and then sometimes you talk to a human. So I think I could regret this, but I think like as long as you're honest about it, like you can usually tell, or they'll say like, welcome to blah 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 brands, chatbot. It would be more fun to talk to like a more interesting character in that chunk of time. So I think as long as it's a bot, I don't really see the harm in like adding some personality to it. But again, don't hold me to that
Yeah.
because I don't know how I'll feel.
Yeah, it's a hard one, and I think I do have I do have a bullish part of my kind of viewpoint on this, and I want to call this out because this is a slight tangent, but as you probably know, OpenAI launched their GPT store like last week or the week before, right? So there's custom GPTs. There's even an Andy bot now, which I've trained on my book. So the view being that
Wild.
potentially is a chatbot a whole brand new content format, and potentially a chatbot becomes, the modern day blog. Because if you think about like certainly the stuff that I create is all like educational, like social media strategy, that kind of stuff. So if I've been creating all of that and putting it on my blog or the newsletter, that creates it's whilst yes, we're trying to be as valuable as possible, it's still quite difficult for a user to search and sort through it. What about
Mm-hmm.
if the Andy bot or any of the bots for businesses were trained on all of that information and then can answer the questions that a user has? Say, like, how do I build a social media strategy? Suddenly comes up with the answers. So the tech isn't quite there because even like the GPT I built isn't as good as I want it to be. I won't go into the details, but it's not perfect, but it's a good step in the right direction. So you think about that. That could then be a nice opportunity for businesses to create loads of value for customers. Because yes, there's a customer service bot, which makes sense, and them existing on socials, you can see the logic. But what about when you can provide really valuable, actionable advice and suggestions to users based on your own kind of unique knowledge and expertise? Does that make any sense? Sorry, it's a long narrative.
No, it does. And I'm really curious to see like how this shakes out. I also have a question for you about, while we're talking about Meta. Becca asked, as a social media marketing professional where you have to, obviously know things, what's your take on Instagram's algorithm compared to TikTok's? I know we like talk about that, and that's a very broad question, but I wasn't sure if you had a short answer or like an answerable answer.
Yeah, not as smart is number one. So it doesn't serve as relevant content, it doesn't seem, based on my own experience on data and stuff. So that's why engagement rates are lower. Engagement rates are higher, but view rates are lower. So basically they're on two opposite ends of the spectrum. So that's probably the easy way to categorize it. Insta is all about reach. We'll get you in front of new people, but the engagement rates, based on what I've seen and data I've seen, aren't the highest because it's still not the best at targeting it to the right people. Whereas TikTok has been built just purely from a recommendation model, right? That's what they're built on. They're built on finding and surfacing the right content.
Right.
But TikTok have a lot of other competing priorities, as we've just been speaking about. So that's why overall reach has gone down, unless you start linking shopping products, right, as we spoke about. But still, it does serve it to very relevant people. Two are opposite ends of the spectrum. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, and one last question, and then we can go back in. How far in advance can you schedule content on Adobe Express? That's unlimited, right?
Yep.
And then can you schedule content to private Facebook groups?
Right, provided you're an admin of them, yes. Yeah.
Cool. I wasn't sure about private. I knew you could. Okay, great. Keep your questions coming, and I'll keep asking them.
Awesome. Perfect. Right. And I'm going to start speeding up in a bit, but I wanted to take a bit of time on this because I think this is kind of interesting thought experiment for social too. We spoke a little bit about chatbots, but this is the other final implementation of Meta AI. They've rolled out a load of new tests and new things. So this will be coming to all of the other, Facebook and Insta very soon. So this allows you to query basically using Facebook Messenger as a search bot. So here, show me some reels of the best places to visit in Tokyo. As we already said, search is pivoting more to social, which currently is happening either by people searching locations or using the search capability on TikTok or Instagram, etc. But the next step to that means people not even bothering needing to search. They can just say, show me, I want to visit the top 10 restaurants in Tokyo. Show me. Yeah, and you'll still be inspired by reels related to them. So discovery of reels still matter, and content still matters, still needs to surface it. But the way that people will be searching, the way that content will be served starts to change. And that really starts to make suddenly social media becomes even more so a search engine. So it will take even more market share away from search, and social media will become even more powerful as it pertains to people discovering new products and services. So I think there's some things about the future of social and AI that scare me, and there's some bits that I'm I can really see the utility and the potential. Does that make any sense? Saying.
Yeah.
Cool.
It does.
Cool. Been speaking about this far too long, so I'm going to speed up. So custom add your sticker, love and add your sticker.
These are so fun. I've been going crazy with these.
Have you?
I love these
Tell
because
me.
I knew about them forever. And I just have a hard time doing new things for no good reason. I just don't. And then I've started seeing, especially other folks at Adobe who have much more curated social media content than me. They'll find all the good ones. And then I'm oh, okay, cool. I'll just add mine to this. But they're so fun and easy. The idea is right there. You just fill it in.
Amazing.
I love these.
Such a great way to drive interaction on the
10 out of
10. You'll love this too. We can now see.
That's very cool.
We do collabs, don't we? We love collabs. Content goes into both of our feeds. Now we can actually see the followers we've got from doing these collabs. So
amazing.
Now we've got the proof to the fact we know how well it works. Create some custom stickers from posts. A really nice way of like,
That's
it is
cute.
cute. But it's also like there's really good utility in this. So you see something from, an account that you follow, you're like, I really want to do a kind of a riff or a take on this. Because this is what content really is becoming, rather than it's not just about your original content, it's your kind of like takes and remixes on others. So I think this just gives us a whole load of other creative possibility. They've improved live streaming on Insta. Before, we've done a few live streams, haven't we, Jordan? Which is just like face to camera and kind of stuff. It doesn't have the production quality.
I did hear about this, that you can stream it with like a stream key now.
Which
my team is very excited about this. So
well, it's a real life utility, because that suddenly means
yeah,
we don't have to limit this broadcast to like LinkedIn and YouTube. It can now go on Insta too, which hugely important for like maximizing our reach. So it probably seems a bit nerdy, the title of the slide, but it's very, very useful, and live streaming still performing really well across networks.
Yeah, it's great.
Instagram notes. So this kind of confused a lot of people, because everyone's like, what is notes? Basically status updates. Feels quite old school, feels a bit MSN Messenger.
I was gonna say, it felt like my little AMOA messages, which I am so nostalgic for, so I get it.
And it's working for teens, and like they keep on coming. It's really reversed the trend where we saw like kind of big exodus and big challenges of like there's all the teens flocking to TikTok. In fact, Instagram are recovering some ground there, which also means that more people on Insta, more teams on Insta, means like the future growth of the platform looks stronger. There's more interaction,
because that's my favorite.
Good, we like that. And no, we've over the last 2 years we've been sharing Instagram like with some trends that don't look as good, but actually with how reels are performing, with collabs, with all these add yours stickers, there's a lot of good stuff. You can now like notes as well. You're going to see a lot more happening around notes, so take note of that one, pardon the pun. But
okay, I guess I will. I've never written one. Maybe I will today.
I don't think you need to do anything right now, but we'll see. I'll be tracking it. We'll see what happens. You can now share stories with friends directly. Again, this kind of leans into
fun.
So if you're like, hey Jordan, you'll like this. So again, that leans into that whole kind of rise of private sharing, etc.
Yeah.
Facebook, only 3 things, but they're all kind of useful. Some things you don't need to do anything. It's just kind of benefit, really. Facebook stories are now showing the page feed. You'll have noticed
that. Yeah.
Facebook is actually just doing quite a lot to improve its experience. People are reporting good reach from Facebook. Facebook was kind of dead for a bit from a brand perspective, but seems to be recovering a bit of lost ground. So stories in the feed means Facebook stories get a bit more reach, which is good. We can now link our threads to our Facebook profile if we want to.
Cool.
Another example where threads just, threads are trying to integrate itself into all places of kind of Meta's suite of products. And now we can also link to our pages directly from our Facebook profiles too. So another way that people can discover our Facebook pages as well. So just a simple profile update. That's it from Facebook. Simple as, nice and easy. Not much from X. This one's probably a bit more nerdy, where if you're ever embedding a tweet on like a blog or a website, it now looks like the left-hand side. So it just looks better. So they've improved that. Link previews are different. Again, they keep on messing about with link previews. So they've now actually provided this bit at the bottom, because they removed any form of link description, which meant we had to put more copy in our captions. Now, like what the article's about will actually be displayed in the link preview, which is kind of what you need.
Oh, so that's great.
That's good, just useful. LinkedIn, sorry for the wordy slide, couldn't find a better graphic to demonstrate this. Basically, LinkedIn, this is like a full kind of press announcement saying like, are hashtags useful? The answer is not particularly. Maybe
I feel like that's pretty standardly becoming the answer.
I think that all networks just want to have less hashtags. I think we're probably approaching the end of hashtags.
They look really messy. I get it.
Yeah.
It's not cute.
It is not. It wasn't going to be the word that I was going to use to describe it, but let's go with it. It's not cute. So we love that. I love it. So if you use LinkedIn newsletters have like the subscription for those have blown up. So they're doing really well. Kind of made me think like, oh, we've got a Substack newsletter. Do I move it to LinkedIn? So I'm still weighing that one up. Subscriptions have grown massively over the last year. Now they've just improved some functionality where you can duplicate from a draft, makes it easier to start a new newsletter as well. So if you don't have a newsletter
That's
already,
great. Yeah, especially if you don't like we chose Substack, which I think is great, but especially if you're kind of trying to choose which one and you already have a LinkedIn following, like amazing, easy.
Yeah, that's such good advice actually. I think it probably could have grown quicker if I chosen LinkedIn, but never mind. Substack felt
we
cool.
learn from ourselves too late.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. It might seem like we're the pros talking about everything that's happening, but yeah, we're forever students.
Yes.
LinkedIn have also done something to articles.
Cool.
If you remember, like articles are your kind of long form blogs that you can do on LinkedIn. Now you can sponsor these if you want to. So if you wrote an article that's like, this is super valuable, but I don't want to give away too much without people putting in their email address to get the rest, you can now do this. So it becomes a new kind of advertising format. TikTok, this is always good because I always love this stuff that helps fuel creative inspiration. And if you just Google this, you'll find it. So TikTok creative cards, they give you a whole bunch of ideas and examples, like for what kind of content works. And, you know, this is just really useful data because you know what I'm like. I love these data points and this kind of thing to help us grow. So if TikTok is your thing, these cards are a really nice, fun, interactive way to get some content inspiration. So I do enjoy that. Cool. Of course, you can also get a whole bunch of inspiration from Adobe Express too, but you know this. You all know this.
Yeah.
They've improved link stickers. So if you're not familiar, like TikTok have obviously taken a lot of inspiration from Instagram with their stickers too, and sort of not link stickers, location stickers to be more accurate. Again, this really is fueling search as well. So location really important. So if anything you're doing, say you're a local bakery, making sure you're putting your location sticker when you're on your TikTok posts, that will help people find and discover you because you know how much TikTok is leaning into search. And the rest. Oh, it's flown through.
Look at all these.
Yeah, it's good. We haven't got too much. For this one. We'll actually finish on good time today rather than rushing.
Great, because I have questions. So
good. All right. Perfect. Well, let's fly through. I think I've got 3 more. I'm going to pause on this one because this is great. So now YouTube.
Yeah, I'm going to use this. This is really good for me.
Wow. I mean, we've just created an hour's worth of content here on that will go onto YouTube. There is so many posts. There's a month's worth of content in this.
Yep.
So press one button, cut it into a bunch of shorts.
God bless.
Hello, content. So
that's great.
I like it. So this is why this kind of interview live format I just find is such a like high leverage thing to do because you just repurpose it so far. Keywords. So you now search for keywords in threads. So another thing, getting a little bit closer to previous Twitter to help people.
And I know this was like a barrier to a lot of people when it opened or when it started was like, how do I find what I'm looking for? So great.
Exactly.
We have it now. That's so nice.
Haven't seen the latest threads growth numbers. Gone very quiet on like how it's performing, but I don't see great success on threads at the moment. That's not to say you won't. I'm still in a bit of a kind of wait and see phase personally. Topic tags come to threads.
Yeah, I like this actually a lot.
Yeah, do you want to share why?
I just think like hashtags are so specific. So, you know, you have to come up with exactly what it is. If you add an S at the end or not, like it's just all these variations. And topics are like, I'm interested in graphic design or I'm interested in like home renovation or whatever. So you don't have to be, you don't have to be aware of all of the nuances of all the hashtags. You can just be like, this is the general what I'm looking for. And I think it's great.
100%. Love it. It's clean. It's better. It's more accessible, and you can only have one. No hashtag stuffing, because no one cares about that. It's just one.
Pick your one thing.
This is your topic. This is what you talk about. So yeah, much better. And yeah, it's a bit more of a nerdy one, but now you can actually see any site traffic that's coming from threads on your website tracking. So cool. Important one. There's Snapchat AI stuff, but I'm going to actually, there was only 2 more. I'm going to skip those 2 just because I really want to go through questions and they're always a bit less popular. Questions. And I'm going to
Okay.
this.
We'll do this at the end. Perfect. Okay, so questions. For YouTube, do you still share the long version as well as the shorts? I say yes. And you can also clip them for like other social platforms too.
Agreed.
Okay. Second question, Lindsay asked, what was that about Substack and LinkedIn? So Andy and I have a Substack where we send out monthly recaps, which there's a link in the description and in all the chats. You can also create a LinkedIn newsletter if you don't want to go to another platform, which like we were saying, honestly, we probably should have because we're both very on LinkedIn and now it's just like another thing to log into and remember. So I'm a big fan of like consolidating the places you need to be because every time you add something, it's just harder. But the question that I really wanted to answer from Fernando is, what features on Express can help with the content format for multiple platforms? It's a nightmare with all the different formats within each platform and cross-platform. I am so happy to tell you that we have a one button resize that has all of the different options for all the different channels built in. So you don't have to like Google what the pixel count for all of these things are anymore, as I did for about a decade. So I don't know if you have other things, Andy, but you can literally just build something, hit resize it into whatever you need. And then especially with scheduler, you can choose to like schedule out each of the sizes individually, or I usually cheat it a little bit and just do squares most places, but you can do like a horizontal, a square, and a vertical super easily and then like customize it that way. But do you have any other things to add with that?
Nailed it. Absolutely perfect.
Okay, well, if you have more questions, we have like 5 minutes, but we can do our little summary if you want and then see if we get more questions.
Cool. Awesome. Well, let's summarize it quickly. YouTube, I'm glad someone asked about YouTube actually, because don't sleep on it, basically. It's still kind of, it's just such a, we talk about this a lot, still think there's untapped potential for businesses across all the stuff, growth of shorts, relevance across demographics. It's the only platform that has equal demographics across teens and over 50s, completely equal. Brilliantly even split. Cut long video into shorts. Creators are there because they're making money. So much good to come from YouTube, to be honest. We spoke loads about TikTok, so I won't share any more about that. But 2024 is gonna be an interesting one for TikTok for sure. So some positives, some kind of headwinds, and some negative stuff. Yeah, X isn't. I don't predict that X will go anywhere in 2024, but who knows? Probably not a safe bet. Given leadership, and then yeah, we spoke loads about the Meta AI, and this is going to be a very interesting year for looking at how social and AI evolves. There will be some bits that I think will challenge us all that we possibly as humans might not like at all, and there'll be some things that open up a whole new world of possibility. So being open-minded is the only thing I can suggest here, and there you go. Hopefully you.
Well, we do have more questions. So
yeah,
thanks for that lovely recap. Does content scheduling have boosting capabilities?
No, it doesn't at the moment. But yeah, curious to know more about the use case. So yeah.
Tag Andy at Andy R. Lambert and tell him all of your content schedule requests and he can add them to his very long list of things we all want, which actually 2 people just asked, will multiple accounts be rolled out on scheduler? And also, is there a way to post and schedule to separate Facebook accounts? So the people want it, Andy. They really do.
They do. And it's being built. And here you go.
So happy.
Yeah. So if it's not out by the end of February, I'll be very disappointed.
That's a great answer. We have literally, I think, been asked that since the very first stream we ever did together. So I am thrilled, 1, to be able to just say, yes, it's out when that happens, which I can't wait. But 2, I want to use that. I have like a billion social platforms, which I don't recommend doing at all, but it'll make my life a lot easier. And I imagine I'm not the only person in that boat, but also for folks scheduling other people's social media, or you have a business and a hobby and all of the different things. It'll be really, really nice.
Exactly.
So
don't hold me to account on the time frame. Everything is technology.
I would never.
Always change, but that's what we're pushing for.
That's amazing. And we had just one last question about the newsletter. Do you think it's better to create a newsletter like on the on a social platform instead of separately. You have 1 minute.
Good. I don't know. I haven't spent enough time on LinkedIn, so I don't know. The thing that would define whether you do or whether it's good or not is, do you control the data? Can you access the email addresses? And can you get the right permissioning? So Substack allows me to take the email addresses, and they're all opted in and permissioned. So it's our data that we've earned the right to. So provided a network allows that, then I think it's all good.
That's a great answer. And we're basically at time. So thank you all so much for joining us. I hope this was helpful. Like I said, sorry if I didn't get to your question in chat because I didn't see it, but Andy and I are extremely available online. So I am at Jordan Danae Ellis and Andy is at Andy R. Lambert, and we will happily answer as many questions as we can between streams. And we actually are going to be doing a whole bunch of streams coming up. So stay tuned on the Adobe Live channel. We'll be back very soon. And I think that's it for me. Any other last words?
All good for me. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know there's a lot of information, but I really hope it was useful. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, and thank you, Andy, for doing all the research for the rest of us. So we appreciate you, and we appreciate you being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.